Okay, welcome everybody. I am Parisa Naruzzi with Empower DC, and this is the Justice for Brentwood Community Update Meeting. Most of you, I think, have been to Justice for Brentwood meetings in the past. You may know that this group started last spring or summer, to push back against the placement of a bus terminal in Brentwood, and then really just took on the existing environmental conditions as well. So we've been doing work to document and call attention to and push for change in the presence of the industrial facilities and the amount of pollution that's there in the community that people are being exposed to. And so tonight we're going to give you some updates on those efforts. While people are still joining, if we could do a very quick round of intros, and we'd love to just know your name, if you're representing an organization, or if you are a Brentwood resident or a Ward 5 resident, just to give us a sense of who we have in the room as we organize together in support of Brentwood. So I'm going to start with Katasha.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Katasha, and I live in Brentwood. I've been working on the steering committee since last summer. And I'm gonna kick it to Lynn. So if you could just kick it to the next person, that'd be great.
Hi everyone, I'm Lynn. I'm a graduate student at American University, and I'm working with Valentina Aquila, and we are monitoring the air quality in Brentwood. So I will kick it to Zara.
Hi, I'm Zara. I intern at Empower DC, and I will kick it to Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen Nelson, and I live in Brooklyn and have been to only about 2 or 3 meetings, but would actually like to get more involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. We'll kick it to Zooks.
I am Zeus. I teach chemistry at Trinity in DC, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about black carbon. I'll kick it to Martha.
Hi everyone, my name is Martha Rondon. I'm a student at Trinity Washington University, and Zooks is my mentor.
Nice to have you, Martha. Thanks.
I'm trying.
I'm not sure who to kick it to. I think everyone went.
No,
Adrian? Adrian, you're on mute.
Okay, unmute. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Hey everyone, I'm Adrian. I live in Brentwood.
Great to have you, Adrian. Thanks for being here.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, let's kick it to Rob.
Hey everybody, my name is Robert. You can call me Rob. I'm new to Brentwood. This is my first meeting and I'm excited to be here. And I will kick it to Zachary.
Hi, everybody. I am Zachary, the newly elected Democratic nominee for Ward 5. I'm really excited to be here and continuing to champion the issues that I know are important to Brentwood and all residents around environmental justice. And I'm hoping to listen and learn and continue to partner with you all. So I'm glad to see so many familiar faces as well as new faces tonight. And I'm going to kick it to Jay. Have you gone already?
No, I've not. Thank you. My name is Jay, and I'm with the Grassroots Justice Organization Namanti and the Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition. And great to be here. Great to see everyone. Let me see if I can kick it to somebody who hasn't gone. Or has everyone gone?
Nope. Sabrina, Taylor.
I see all. Sabrina, please.
What do you need me to do?
Intro, just quick intro.
Hi, I'm Sabrina, Ivy City resident and organizer with Empower DC and ANC for Ivy City. Hello, everybody.
Tasha, you're on top of it. Go ahead and lead us. The next person. Oh, sorry, Taylor. You're already unmuting.
Hey guys, we haven't seen you in a while. We used to be members of the steering committee, and this is Taylor and Ian. This is probably our last meeting. We have our video off because we are packing. So we will be leaving in about 2.5 weeks. But we really are excited to get an update and excited for Zachary. Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine Ann. And we have a couple more people. Let's see. Melody? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Melody Hamoud, Brentwood resident for about 10 years and neighbor to Katasha.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Carol Ann?
Okay. Hi, this is Caroline Gross Davis. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency in Region 3. And I work in the Office of Tribes and Environmental Assessment. And I'm here to listen. Thanks.
Thank you for being here. And B? How? Let's see. I'm gonna ask you to unmute and see if you see that. Yes.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I've been trying to work on my Zoom camera thing that doesn't work, but I'm a Brentwood resident, been here for about 13 years, I saw a sign on the street, so I just wanted to tune in and see what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Okay, did we miss anybody? Oh, Brett. Brett, good to see you.
I'm Brett Williams. I live in Brooklyn. I used to teach environmental justice at AU, but I'm retired now.
Good to have you, Brett. Thank you. Okay, so I think we might have some more people join through the course of the meeting. I put the agenda in the chat. We're going to give some updates on some air monitoring that is happening. We are going to request support from residents in particular around filing complaints around the odor, especially related to the trash transfer facility. We're going to talk to Zachary Parker, who just recently won the Democratic primary for Ward 5 Council, and he'll presumably be elected in November as the Ward 5 Council member. So talking to him about how to advance environmental justice for Brentwood, and I'm sure this will be an ongoing conversation. And then we're going to talk about the health impact assessment survey that we are kicking off now, kicking off with this meeting, and then announcements. So Katasha, let me turn it to you first. I think you may have a shout out to give to somebody. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's not here, so I feel bad. But I was gonna give a shout out to Sharon, Sharon Edwards. She lives on 13th Street because Sharon is participating in both of our monitoring studies. Not only that, she has been doing lots of work, just like with ordinary things in the community. So getting putting in multiple requests to get graffiti down, which has been really nice, not to have that. Working on, with the folks at Home Depot, because we have a lot of issues on Brentwood Road, where people sort of like had their overdose. There's been a few overdoses and stuff over there. So, working on like really productive solutions with them. And so just if you see Sharon around the neighborhood, little hand clap for her, because she really has been putting in a lot of work.
That's a good one. So hopefully we'll get to see her tonight. I know we want to talk about the air monitors and do that update. I'm wondering, Zachary, how long do we have you, and should we chat with you first, or?
I would love to hear an update on that.
Okay.
And so I'm good to 7:30.
Okay. All right. So let's do the air monitor update, and then we'll go into our conversation with Zachary. So I think let's go ahead and start with Lynn. Lynn, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and start with you. And this is very exciting. So go ahead.
Yeah, I have a little PowerPoint. Let me pull that up. Okay, can you all see my screen okay? Super. First, I just wanted to say, thank you so much for having me. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to our volunteers who are hosting the Purple Air Monitors. We couldn't, do this without you guys. So thank you so much. So the Purple Air Monitors are sensors that measure particulate matter pollution. And I'll go into detail about a little bit more about that later. But we can use these sensors to examine the air quality in Brentwood, and we're hoping to be able to compare it to other neighborhoods in DC and to the EPA regulatory monitors. So the really cool thing about these monitors is that they're connected to the Wi-Fi. So you at your home can go online and view what the air quality is in your neighborhood. So if you go to purpleair.com and then you click on map and real-time map, takes a minute to load. Normally, if you haven't used this before, it would show you, the entire United States. So you would come up to the corner here and you would put in your zip code and it will bring you to your neighborhood. So right here, you can see the monitors that we have installed. We also have.
Lynn, I'm sorry. Were you trying to share the PowerPoint right now or the?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you not see the screen?
We can just see the PowerPoint. Were you trying to see the website as well? It sounded like you were
I'm
pulling out.
sorry.
Okay. You'll have to, do a separate share. That's okay.
Okay. Can you see the website now?
Now we can. Yes, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry. So if you go to Purple Air, I'll show this again, .com, and then you'll go up here to the real-time map. It'll take a second to load, and then up here is where you can put in your zip code. But right now I'm looking at the Brentwood neighborhood here, and you can see the monitors that we have. And we also have one installed in Ivy City. So each one is going to have a number and a color. And so if you click on one, you'll see this one is 56, and that's the AQI number. It'll also show you a little figure on the side, which looks at the AQI over time. So you can see there's a lot of, variation here. One really notable one is this peak here, which was July 4th. So there was a lot of pollution from the fireworks. So all of the monitors are going to have a peak there. So let me go back to the PowerPoint.
And Lynn, what is AQI?
Yep, so AQI is the air quality index. So this is what EPA uses for reporting air quality. So there's 0 to 50, which is going to be in the green, and that's good. So there's no or little risk there. Yellow, which is going to be 51 to 100, is an acceptable range for air quality. But there have been cases where people who are particularly sensitive to air pollution could have some risks. And then orange is where you start to kind of get, like, it's a little bit more unhealthy, especially if you have, any health risks. So far, I haven't seen anything in the red, purple, or maroon range. So that's really great. And so the EPA has this AQI for 5 major air pollutants under the Clean Air Act. And the one that we're focusing on in this study is the particulate pollution. And so particulate matter is this really fine particle that can be inhaled into your lungs, and it can cause health problems. And so that's why we're concerned. Some examples of this are like dust, soot, smoke. And so some of these particles are emitted directly from a source. So you can imagine a construction site would have a lot of dust, or a wildfire would have a lot of smoke. Most of the particles that we're going to be finding are in the atmosphere from chemical reactions, such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. And so those pollutants come from power plants, industries, automobiles, and that's why, we're concerned for the bus terminal. And so that's all that I had prepared. I'm happy to answer questions, or, if anybody wants to speak with me further offline, I'd be happy to.
Lynn, would you mind going ahead and sharing the Purple Air site again, the website? And let's take a look at those monitors one more time. And I want to open it up for any questions. You can raise your hand or just unmute. We're a pretty small group, so we can handle that.
I just have one thing.
Yes, please.
Lynn, so when I last talked to Dr. Valentina, she mentioned that so if you all look at the map, there's a part of Brentwood where we don't have any monitors. We have potential monitors, but we don't have anyone to host them. And so we're looking for people to host them. So if you look over by like where it's Saratoga and Montana, and we know it's hard because it's harder for us to put a monitor on in multi-unit buildings, like in Brentwood Manor. So we're looking for people who live in row homes over there. So if you know anyone who might be willing, if you could put us in contact with them, you could email me Lynn, if you want, I can take care of that. But like, yeah, if you will get in touch with us when we can.
Yeah, we would love to get a few more up. I know we have at least 5 that are available and ready to go. And we'd even, would like to put another one in Ivy City too. So yeah, feel free. I'll put in my email and Valentina's in the chat, and you can reach out to any of us.
Hey, sorry, can you give us a sense of what that like requires and what that looks like? So like if we say we're going to sell our home, would that be something that the new buyers, wouldn't want? Because obviously we'd be happy to put one in our home as well. But what does that really entail?
Yeah, so these are actually kind of being donated or supplied by American University. So it would only be in your house or on your home or outside, for about a month at least, hopefully longer if the volunteers are willing. But basically it's about the size, I would say, of like a softball. And we hang it outside using zip ties, so there's no screws or anything to damage your home. And then it does have to be either plugged into an outlet, or we do supply you with battery packs that you can exchange, but they have to be swapped out about every 4 days. And so really the 2 things that are required are, one, that there's somewhere that we can hang it, and it can be either, plugged in or with the battery pack. And then, 2, that it can be connected to the Wi-Fi, because that's how we can view it in real time here on the map.
Awesome, thank you. And we would definitely be willing to do that. So if someone wants to reach out to us, please do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Lynn, can you click on one of those again and show us what pops up when you click on it? Okay, can you walk us through that a little bit? I don't know if it's possible to make it any larger, but so the 56 is the average.
Right. So that's going to be like your 10 minutes. You can see, sorry, there's a lot of pop-ups here, but you do have averages here. So you can see like the weekly average was 53. If you go to like download the data, you can get even more specific with it. So each sensor has 2 channels, A and B, and that way we can get a more accurate reading, because sometimes one sensor might be disrupted from something like an ant that crawls up into it. So we want to be able to have the ability to take the average.
And so just going back to that average number, at what number are we starting to say, not so good?
I mean, I think going, anything above 50 is kind of where it like starts. I would say we're more concerned 100 and up. But at that like 50 mark is where it's like, hey, some people who are really sensitive or have like previous, health problems, they could start seeing some risk. And so what we're looking to do is, we're collecting this data, hopefully, at least for a month or longer. The more data we have, the better. And then we're going to be calculating a 24-hour average. And we'll be able to compare that with, what the EPA says the 24 average is, and see if that's, accurate to this specific neighborhood.
And Any other questions from the group for Lynn about the purple air monitors? Okay, thank you so much, Lynn.
I had a
Oh, go ahead, Zara. Go ahead.
question. Just, I'm on the website right now. How do you change the like the horizontal axis, like the time frame that you show the data on? Because right now I'm seeing it from July 8th to 14th.
Yeah, so if you go, I'm not sure, I've been messing around a lot with this, but you should be able, there should be like a data thing here, and I have it set to the days, 1 day, 7 days is, I'm not sure what your, I think it can change, like you can do different averaging periods, and it will change the map.
Okay.
All right, and I want to get, thank you so much, Lynn. I'm going to ask Shizuka and now I'm not
Martha?
seeing. Yeah, is she still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, Martha. Okay, there you are. If, to see if you all would also speak to another monitor that was put in the, of course, let me let you share your screen. And yeah, speak to another monitor that was put in the neighborhood. Let's see. Here we go. All right. You should be good now.
Hi. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope so. Here we go. So Lynn's introduction was absolutely perfect because the new monitor that Ms. Sharon is hosting right now is a black carbon monitor. So what is black carbon? When you see that diesel, right, soot, or if you have fires burning or smoking, right, and if there's that black soot associated with it, some of that is really, really, really fine stuff. And if it's fine enough, just like Lynn showed that picture of PM 2.5, right, that's dangerous because it's so small, it can get all the way down into your lungs. So PM 2.5 is known to be dangerous because it can go into your lungs. But like Lynn said, there's so many different kinds of PM 2.5. And one of the kinds of PM 2.5 that's actually known to be dangerous is black carbon. So again, it's going to be in the air and it's going to be coming from things like diesel. Are there any questions about that? So, right, there's lots of PM 2.5 and only a small part of it is black carbon. And EPA does not regulate black carbon, but there's a lot of studies that are showing that black carbon is a, sort of a dangerous component of PM 2.5. So here's Ms. Sharon's backyard. There's a purple air up there. And then what Martha and I put in is this box right here. And this one is collecting air through this tube. Inside of it, what it looks like is this piece of tape. And I don't know if you can see these little dots right here. If those are really dark, it means that the air that has been sucked through and put onto the tape contained a lot of that black soot. And so it's able to figure out how much actually is in there. So as you can see, it's a lot bigger than a purple air monitor. This is also a lot older than a purple air monitor. Martha and I figured out this is as old as Martha is. We collect the data on a compact flash disk. So this is not going straight to the internet, right? So there's a lot of disadvantages associated with this. It's big, it's bulky, it's expensive, and we have to go and collect the data. So we can't see it in real time. Fortunately, the new models are a lot sleeker, and I think Mr. Stan Weekly volunteered to host a second black carbon monitor. So that will be coming soon. So the question is, right, what do these data actually look like? I did a really quick hourly average of data collection here. So this right here is the PM 2.5, and Lynn, I hope I did okay in getting those numbers. I'll have to double check them with you because those are from the purple air monitors. And these are purple air monitors. And as Lynn mentioned, right, the evening of July 4th, this is like 9 p.m. July 4th. It's really high. So there's a lot of particulate in there, but you can see, right, that particulate matter goes up and down. But the black carbon, right, is this very, very small bit at the bottom. So I'm going to focus in on that and talk a little bit about why it might be important to monitor black carbon in addition to PM 2.5 in general. So if you zoom in here, you can see that the black carbon goes up and down. This right here, for example, is a weekend. So it's a lot lower on the weekend. And we don't necessarily always see that, right, on the PM 2.5 because there's a lot of variables that are affecting that, whereas this is directly measuring sort of the diesel truck traffic that's around you. I apologize for these gaps right here. That old monitor is sometimes down. And so Martha's been great about going and checking on it to make sure that we can start it back up and start collecting data again. So what we're seeing is that there's some times of the day, right? There's some times of the day where that black carbon is really high when the PM 2.5 is not necessarily, right, that high. It's just that this component is there. And again, because this is sort of really reflecting what's happening locally in your neighborhood in terms of that diesel soot, I hope that it's valuable data to have. I think, you know, in terms of what's high, things above 1 microgram per meter cubed, right? That's starting to get like, that's a lot of black carbon. This is a lot of black carbon. So what's been really helpful is Ms. Sharon has been, for example, calling 311 when there's diesel engines idling. But what would be really interesting, right, is if we write down those times when we see diesel engines idling and see if it's getting picked up here, then we can really say like, and our air looks like this because, right, it correlates and it correlates with that. Also, if there's days when things are not good, right, knowing when those days are, having this monitoring data will allow you to go back, hopefully, and maybe be able to pinpoint and say to DOE, yeah, this day was a bad day, and look at what our monitors are showing. So hopefully just continuing to collect this data and putting a new one in Mr. Stan's residence, hopefully will be something of value to the community. Are there any questions? Martha, did you want to add anything? Because Martha's been looking into sort of, you know, what do these values mean? She's also been taking a look at patterns. For example, this right here is 9 o'clock, right? So 9 o'clock in the morning, it goes up, and it has a tendency to do that.
No, unfortunately, I don't have anything to add to all the amazing things that you just shared. I think you said a lot, especially with like, you know, keeping track of when you smell, like, you know, like if you smell diesel in the air all the time that you see the truck idling, because that'll help correlate it with the data that we get.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. Zooks, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're always such a great resource to us. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And we'll have more time for discussion a bit later. I know we don't have Zachary for our whole meeting, so I want to go ahead. And if I could, before he starts speaking, I just want to show you a 1-minute video of an event that we did on Earth Day. Some of you were at which Zachary spoke and some other candidates as well. And you can see all of the videos of the candidates that spoke on Empower DC's YouTube page.
This is what we deal with every day. The noise from the trucks, the smell from the trash trucks, the smell and the odor from the garbage dump. My family's been here for over 60 years. Our family home is here. I'm not going anywhere. And understand something. Even though you might not live directly on this street, whatever goes up in the air finds you. Okay? It finds your respiratory system. So everybody is affected. In Brentwood or in Brooklyn or in Eckington or Edgewood or Ivy City, all of our neighbors, we're all affected by this madness. We have got to stand up and stop it.
That was the amazing Commissioner Darlene Oliver, who has joined us as well, I believe. I think I saw, there you are, Commissioner. Very well stated. And we saw Faith Gibson Hubbard in those videos as well. She's here too. So thank you, Faith, for joining. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for Zachary is Zachary still here? Did we lose him? Okay. I think maybe he dropped off. All right. So I'm sure he'll be rejoining. When he rejoins, we'll hear from him. Maybe something happened. So in the meantime, let's go ahead to another thing that we wanted to share. There was a flyer distributed throughout Brentwood. It pertains to filing complaints about the odor. And please, somebody flag me if Zachary jumps back in, because I know he had a hard stop tonight. And did anybody who's a Brentwood resident receive a flyer about how to file a complaint, a 311 complaint regarding odor? No? Okay.
We did.
We got it.
Okay, very good. So some of them went out. We have summer youth employment program happening in Ivy City, and so the youth helped with that. I'm gonna send you guys the flyer again with the information. I'll just show my screen real quick, and I see Zachary coming back in. Let's see. So this is what it looks like. Let me try to make it bigger. But anyway, it will give you the information of how to submit the complaint. And it appears that so far Department of Environment is not taking the odor issues very seriously. So we need to flood them a bit with these complaints. Katasha, do you want to say anything about this?
You mean say something about what they told us?
What they told us and what you
Sure.
you guys are experiencing right now with the odor.
Yeah, sure. So I think for most people who live in Brentwood, the odor from the trash company has been really bad the last few weeks, dare I say months. I mean, I think since it's gotten warm outside, and I think even during the Earth Day event, you know, we could smell whiffs of it as people were, as we were, you know, people were talking and things like that, and it's just gotten progressively worse. With that said, DOE informed us today that they regularly send out inspectors and they haven't had any detection of like terrible odor, right? And it's like that, I don't know how that's possible if, you know, we all smell it every day. And in fact, some residents have reported feeling sick, vomiting and things like that because of the odor and how bad it's been. And so we really want to flood 311 with complaints about the odor, because this is not okay. It's not okay for us to have to live with that odor every day. And so I think we also had gotten the 311 information from the Georgetown law students, I think, as well. Yep. So, you know, we want to do everything we can to do something about this.
You know, this is a big lie. Okay, I can't tell. I think that might just be background noise. So, so we will resend the information of how to do the 311 complaint. Zachary's back with us, so let's turn to him, and then if anybody has questions about the odor stuff, we'll talk about it again. So Zachary, we asked you to come join us. Of course, I know you've been working alongside Brentwood residents on these issues for a couple years now. Now, as you're moving into the new council seat, we would love to talk, you know, hear your thoughts about how you want to approach advancing environmental justice for Brentwood and communities like Brentwood, and really just start a conversation that I know will continue for many months to come. So thank you for joining us, Zachary.
Thank you for having me. And I would say that was very informative in terms of the monitors and just tracking. I did have a question. I was trying to come off mute. I was not able to pull up the monitor because it said my web browser was not supported, but it would just be helpful, and we don't have to do this now, just to see the disparity, if one exists, assuming one exists, across the city, like Brentwood versus other areas in the city. I couldn't quite see that. But yes, so I don't get sworn in until January. And so what I'm prioritizing between now and then is doing exactly this, listening and engaging with neighbors, creating a list of requests. In fact, I met with the mayor today. I continue to meet with other folk. And among my discussion with the mayor was Brentwood and the issues that the community is facing. She is vowing to work with me to advance those issues. And so at least verbally, we have a commitment and an open door. And, I'm committing to push on issues of environmental justice. A few things that I would say are top of mind for me is the comp plan and really leveraging that opportunity to legally advance a more just displacement of I'm blanking. What is it called?
Industrial land, the PDR.
I completely blanked for a second there, but just making sure that we have a more equitable distribution of industrial land across the city. And also making sure we use every legal opportunity we have to hold companies like Fort Myers and others accountable to doing the things that they ought to be doing. And that doesn't always have to be adversarial. I want to go to the table and work with others, but where they are not working with the community, we need to prioritize the needs of the community. And then lastly, it's about amplifying the voices of community members like yourselves. And so several things that I plan to do is establish an advisory committee to amplify community-based needs. And I certainly want and will make sure Brentwood is represented on that advisory council, as well as making sure that we have ward-based office hours and ward-based council hearings, if you will, but understanding that everyone can't make it down to the Wilson building. And so one of the things that I really appreciate that Empower DC has been able to do, as you all have been organizing in Brentwood, is bringing more folk into the fold. And so I remember, I think, Katasha's first meeting, for instance, and now to just see how you all are organizing, and that really is what it is for the benefit of your community, is really inspiring. So those are some of the things that are on my radar. So the comp plan, using and working with the executive to really advance these issues. And again, as I said, we at least have a verbal commitment to explore where we can do those things. It seemed like some of the issues were not necessarily on the executive's radar. And so I think there's an opportunity there, as well as just examining every legal opportunity we have before us and amplifying the voices of neighbors. So I'm happy to answer any questions or just engage in a discussion if you.
Great. Yeah, so we'd love to hear just comments or questions for Zachary, suggestions, thoughts about priorities. And again, this will just be a first conversation, but anybody would like to chime in?
And I see Sharon has logged on.
Oh, good.
Thanks for joining, Sharon. Was there a disparity in the monitors that we saw in Brentwood versus other parts of the city?
So I could pull up the map again.
And if you discussed that, my apologies. I just
we didn't discuss it. Lynn, go ahead and pull up the map and we can check it out. We do know that there's an entity called Aclima that does a type of monitoring where they drive a vehicle through different neighborhoods and collect data. And they did a short, couple day study. They drove and collected data in Brentwood and Ivy City, and as well in some neighborhood, I forget if it was Palisades or something like that, somewhere up Ward 3. And they were able to show that very clearly, the disparity that exists. So yes, I think that that's a good thing to be mindful of and be, documenting for sure. So Lynn, I see.
Yeah, so this should be, hopefully you can see my screen. This is the DC area. And I do know Valentina has done some studies. I think this was last summer in Buzzard Point, which was down here. So we're hoping to be able to at least, really compare her study and the data that she collected last summer with what we're going to be getting this summer in Brentwood.
Yeah,
Looks like
A couple
there's
of
not
things for Zachary. So these like purple air monitors are considered low cost monitors. So there was one monitor from a resident had one in Brentwood, right? So there were a couple $100, so people can have one, right? And so what we were told from DOE is like, oh, well, if you just put one up, like it doesn't really, we can't really trust it, it's like not high quality. But their reaction was very different when I said, oh, we have 12, or we have access to 12, right? And so, then basically Kelly Carver was like, oh, Katasha, let's talk, and so, part of this is like the method of doing this, right? So anybody who works with data knows that like, okay, so if you have more than one, if you have more than two, right, you have three, and they're all saying the same thing, well, and you put them in neighboring neighborhoods, right, then, that data quality is better, right? And then in addition to that, what people should know is that air pollution, so PM 2.5 is one thing, black carbon is one thing, right? And so we are looking to measure other things too, like VOCs and NO, because when the city did their study, the only thing they measured was carbon monoxide, CO, which carbon monoxide, basically everyone at the EPA said, well, you're never going to violate CO standards because that's about indoors, really. The standard is very high. And so we really have made it a goal to measure as many things as we possibly can and work with many academics. So in addition to working with, being Trinity and GW and Maryland, we're working with lots of people and getting lots of advice around how we get access to these monitors and how we measure lots of different things. So, in the future means be on the lookout for that, including working with ACLIMA.
Oh, that's really cool. Quick follow-up question. And it's really cool to see these monitors change in real time. So the one that's 30 was just 29. Can you speak to why you might think that monitor is at 30 where monitors a couple of blocks away are at different places? And this is all, in my mind, before a bus terminal is even in the community. And so I would imagine what we're seeing as elevated levels currently will only get worse as we have dozens of buses pumping through the community.
So we can see a lot of variation, I know, seasonally as well. So summertime with the heat and the humidity, that can also change the air quality. Unfortunately, our study is only going to be covering one season in the summer. But I do know, like I was explaining earlier, there are different sources of particulate matter, one being construction, and construction causes a lot of dust. And I think I remember seeing some construction pretty close by to this area here. So I do kind of wonder if that dust is kind of impacting like this street a little bit more. Whereas like down here in Ivy City, like it's really close by, but it's, very different. And that's, so I think maybe that can play a role into it as well. Valentina is definitely more of the expert. So I can always get you in contact with her as well to help answer that question.
No, that's really helpful.
It would be great to get more monitors in Ivy City. Ivy City has very narrow streets, and I think this sort of changes sort of the air pattern as well and traps things potentially a little bit more. Yeah, proximity to roadway oftentimes is a big one for particulate matter, but other things will affect it, right? If there are people smoking, if people are barbecuing, if people are using sunscreen or bug spray near the monitor, right? Those things will make them go high. And that's why, as Natasha pointed out, the fact that you've got a whole bunch of them, right, is really important because it creates a better picture of what's happening in the neighborhood without worrying about those sort of outliers due to activities.
Thank you.
Hello.
Go ahead,
This
Commissioner. Go ahead.
Oliver. Don't forget we have the concrete company back here on W Street. Don't forget about them.
Right.
They're tripping every day. The concrete company, and then we have the asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that W Street being directly across from the industrial sites, and possibly the person with the 30 has a tree. I don't know. Maybe they have a tree around their property, but I do want to open it back up. Was there any other comments or questions for Zachary, or just recommendations, thoughts in general about how you would want your next council person to advance environmental justice? I hear
Good
somebody.
evening.
Yes.
This is Victor. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
So,
Victor.
thank you. Thank you. I'm an IT professional, and during this whole pandemic, scandemic, transdemic, I've noticed that Verizon and other carriers are starting to deploy what looks to be 5G based antennas. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
So I guess in line with this comp plan, we need to be able to have a study of that. I noticed that over at the Home Depot, these devices are like 3 stories about. So if you're on the parking lot going to Giant or to the Home Depot, that antenna is beaming right at the people in the parking lot. So you have what the omnidirectional antennas. And when you look at these towers, they have a small notice at the top, and I think the city needs to address it. I guess it's constructive notice. It says, if you're working beyond this point, then you're exposed to radiation that exceeds FCC limits. And so I had to get a camera just to try to zero in on it, and still I didn't have a good enough camera to see that sign. But I guess that's the carrier's way of giving notice to the community. Now, if you're in a bucket truck and you go up, you first have to call whoever the carrier is, whether it's Verizon, whoever, and say, hey, I need you to turn this off. Because when you get hit with that kind of, with that millimeter wave, if it hits your periodontal, for example, you have COVID related symptoms. That is, you can't smell or taste. If it hits your abdominal, then you won't be able to breathe. And when you go to the dentist, you all recall, it's a different waveform that's called X-ray. They have to put a lead plate on your chest. And that is to prevent them from irradiating your lungs. Because if they do that, you're going to have cancer or pneumonia. And so I think that we need to look at a thing called, there's a study called the Moscow signal, where during the Cold War, and I'll quickly finish here, where the Russians and the US were rushing to get this next wave of weapons. And so our staff at the Moscow embassy was hit with 2.4 gigahertz of radiation. And when you saw the damage it did to the staff members, Kissinger had to give these people some kind of compensation, hazard pay, by 1973. So we're talking about 1953, I'm sorry, up until that time. And the federal government has been doing extensive research on the effects of this wave of this type of radiation on the human body, but they were doing it on monkeys. They call it Operation Pandora. So I think it's very important at this point that they've been deploying this stuff. If you got a house that you built and you need a heavy up, they make you wait on the can because they're giving the carrier's priority. And they're popping these things up all over. And so during the height of the scamdemic, I went around and put up signs on that trying to alert the people that if you're within 500 feet of this stuff, it's harmful to the animals, plants, and humans.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I do know that neighbors across the ward are concerned about these towers. I don't believe it is a comp plan. I can do more homework on it. I don't believe it's a comp plan issue, but I do know that folk in the Wilson building have to sign off on the placement of these towers. And so one of the things that I just need to get a better grasp of over these next few months is where exactly all the towers exist. Probably not a surprise to you all on this call, it seemed as though very few neighbors were notified where these towers were placed ultimately. And so what due process might exist as a result there?
So I think that,
I'm sorry, Victor, I'm gonna have to move forward. We only have Zachary for a few more minutes. So maybe I'm sure he'd be willing to share his email and.
Yeah, good. It does require a study to make sure to know what impact this radiation is going to have. And we saw a lot of birds drop the previous summer, so they didn't have any trauma to the body. So we need to look at that.
Okay,
this stuff,
thank you.
it splits oxygen into two atoms.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about a health study here in a second. So that we agree that studies are needed to see what the impact of multiple things are in the neighborhood. Any other comments or questions for Zachary? Things that you want him to be like thinking about or looking into?
There was a question in the chat. Councilmember McDuffie filed an eminent domain case on the dump. Are there any updates on this case? As far as I know, it was passed legislatively. However, it was never fully funded. And so it needs to be revisited, is my understanding.
Yeah, let me, so yeah, it was passed legislatively and that's been years ago, I think 5 years or more. They had not moved on it. Basically, they had to file the papers in court to actually do it. They did not do that until Brentwood residents organized Justice for Brentwood and filed a lawsuit against the terminal. Then they said, oh, okay, well, we'll do the eminent domain on the trash facility. It's been creeping through the process. We have worked with the Georgetown University Law School to kind of monitor and see what's going on. There's no update yet. I think that they're at a stage of agreeing on a price for the eminent domain, to take the property. My understanding is that the council, that it has already been budgeted and funded. That's my understanding, that it was funded in a previous budget, but we can double check that. And so, yes, certainly we want it to move forward, and also, then look at how it's shut down and how it's, decommissioned so that doesn't contribute even more problems as they're taking it apart. And of course, what happens in the future with that site, make sure it doesn't get replaced with another hazard. So we will continue to monitor that and provide updates through these meetings as we get them. Thank you for the question. Any other comments or questions for Zachary?
I just want to say that, like, I've only lived in Brentwood for 1.5 years, Zachary, but I think in the work that I've been doing in the, just being a part of things, like, I've really seen, like, my neighbors, those people who've lived here, 30, 40 years, like Miss Darlene saying, her family's lived here for 60 years. And I've just really noticed, like, people are like desperate to be able to open their windows or like be able to go outside their house and not have like rats running through. I saw a woman in Ivy City, basically I was begging Kenya McDuffie, like, please do something, right? And I think people are just really asked, just do something to help them, right? Like, like my neighbors were saying they're throwing up, like the smell, you were here on Earth Day when it's just the whiffs of the smell. Like these things are not in people's heads, like they're putting in 311 complaints when trucks are idling and the police say, oh, there's nothing we can do. And I could print off the law that says they can't idle for more than 3 minutes, right? But we do the things that people tell us to do and then nothing happens, right? And so we need more like enforcement of rules that are already there and then rules that help mitigate some of the overburden that we have in this community.
I hear you loud and clear. We're on the same page. And my hope is to hold the government accountable to doing exactly what you said, honoring the calls of neighbors.
That's great, Zachary. I mean, I think, like you mentioned, an advisory committee, the city has no environmental justice anything. There's no, intergovernmental interagency council. There's no community council. So nobody's taking responsibility for environmental justice and connecting the dots, the intersectionality. We do have Allison Kreiner Brown is with us on the call. She's an equity program staff with Department of Environment, has been very supportive as well. So I don't know, Allison, if you want to say hi or add anything. But Zachary, I think we have the makings, a lot of people that would love to work with you and really advance environmental justice. And part of what we have to do is look at those, those regulations that are in place, the laws that are in place. Most of them are not strong enough. And then of course, yes, the enforcement.
How about we do this, knowing that there is a lot of work that I know you all are leading. There's other efforts. If we can set up a meeting, Empower DC with neighbors, and come up with an action plan for Brentwood, and that would both serve as something you all can hold me accountable to, but will allow me to help prioritize what neighbors are feeling is top priority. And I know it's many things, including the bus terminal, including the eminent domain situation, the air pollution. And so that would be, I think, a beneficial next step.
I love it. Good idea.
So
Any last comments here before we get into our health survey? Okay. Allison is in the chat. I don't want to take up space, but I'll say keep the pressure on and I'll continue. Let's see, I can only read part of it. Continue to be concerned about what I hear from Brentwood community members, including DC government response. So we really appreciate that, Allison. You know, it's good to have people with one foot in each world. She is, you know, a longtime advocate. So she knows, she's been on our side. So if it's okay, then I think I'll move into the next section. We mentioned at our last meeting that we are working with Dr. Phoenix. She came to our last meeting and introduced herself. She is a health equity professional, expert and professor at GW. And we are working with her to do a health impact assessment. And the purpose of this is to really identify, you know, collect the data, put the data together so that the residents have it in their hands, about what is the condition of health in Brentwood, of residents' health in Brentwood. And then we can identify how vulnerable people are. And as Lynn was saying, you know, 50 is problematic when you have a lot of people with asthma, right? And so we'll be able to match these things up and say, look, we have an already overburdened community with, you know, poor air quality. We have vulnerable populations. We cannot keep adding, you know, bus terminal, et cetera, to that. So what I want to say to you today is just to expect that you're going to get emails, especially residents, emails, text messages, phone calls, flyers about this survey. We're going to keep it open for about a month. All of your answers will be confidential. They will not be attributed to you in any way. To give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect in the survey, we're going to ask about your residence in Brentwood, how long you've lived there, that type of thing. We're going to ask some questions related to quality of life, like, do you feel comfortable opening your windows? You know, do you feel comfortable sitting outside? Do you feel safe walking on the street? These types of things. Then we're going to get into the more specifically health related data about, you know, have you ever been told that you have any of these types of illnesses? And also asking about your access to healthcare. So there are some questions about your ability to, you know, do you have a doctor or these types of things? And then we get into a little bit about food access, and then some other just demographic questions, age, you know, income, things like this. And again, it's completely confidential. That type of data is just used to be able to disaggregate, right? To say, well, okay, well, you know, the people over this age that had lived in the neighborhood over this amount of time had more health incidents than, for instance, younger people who had just moved there. So to be able to disaggregate and look at the data in that way. So I would love for Brentwood residents to just, you know, consider this to be your study. We want it to be something that, again, is in your hands so you can understand, you know, what's going on in the neighborhood, and then we can use it to set goals to improve the health of residents, which is obviously based on improving your quality of life in your neighborhood, right? Improving the air quality, improving the, you know, tree coverage, these things like this. Katash or anybody else want to add anything about the survey?
Can I actually add something real quick?
Yes, sure, Sayla, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to emphasize, like Parisa said, you know, there are some questions that are definitely sensitive to answer. And if there's any point when if you find yourself taking the study with somebody over the phone, for example, if you're not comfortable or able to do it alone and you don't want to answer something, that's completely okay. Obviously, the more data, the better, but we'll take any data that we can get. And we are being mindful about making sure that, you know, we're respectful of what you're comfortable to share. So I feel like if you look at the survey and you see a bunch of stuff that maybe you're not as comfortable sharing, don't let that be a deterrent to, like, at least giving some information. And yeah, just know that we're mindful of that and keeping that in mind. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, it does ask a little bit about your perception around climate change and where you get your information, you know, your news media information. And again, this stuff was developed through the university, and there's a reason, you know, for it. It's to better understand the data that we're getting from the neighborhood, right? So to be able to really see patterns and such like that. So again, we have a list of people that we've met through outreach before. We'll be sending this to them. We'll also be putting out flyers, putting up signs. So we hope to get good participation. I don't actually know exactly how many residents there are in Brentwood, but we would want to get like 10% at least, which is probably a couple hundred people. It's probably at least a couple thousand residents in Brentwood. So Katasha, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, if you get the survey, if you could just, ask one of your neighbors, if one person asks one person, right, it sort of builds on itself. Because it really is a lot of work to go door to door in the heat. And so, we're really asking people, like, I know some people on this call know a lot of people in the neighborhood, and you could just, sort of whisper in their ear, like, hey, could you please take this? The folks who are doing it have only good intentions and, working towards justice for Brentwood stuff. So that would be really helpful because it is an undertaking to get 10% of the residents. So.
And this is our current focus right now, is really collecting this data, right? So we've partnered with a number of different professionals, put these monitors in, we're doing this study. And then, right now the city council's on recess from legislative work mid-July through mid-September. And, we probably want to be ready in mid-September when they come back to go in there with data and with an ask, some start of an ask. I mean, we know some of the changes that we need in Brentwood are long-term, like land use changes. Things that exist today that should not be there need to be removed, right? We know that's not going to happen overnight, but there are other things that can happen rather quickly in terms of enforcement and things like that. And I know the residents have been saying, the smell is unbearable right now. So I think that's our agenda. I have a couple quick announcements, and then I want to open it up if anybody else has announcements or questions, comments that you didn't get a chance to say earlier. Let me just quickly invite you to 2 events. We recently completed a documentary film about the Berry Farm community. We're really proud of it. It documents the history and also the struggle around to stop displacement and to preserve history. There's some screenings coming up. You can look at Empower DC's website on our events page. Next week is one. And then there's another one at the Dorothy Height Library coming up. So you'll see that on the calendar as well. And then this is the other thing I wanted to share. We are having a workshop on next week around eviction prevention. We are launching a eviction prevention door knocking campaign, talking to people who are actually on the eviction list, and also just other tenants who may be at risk, connecting people with legal resources and knowledge of their rights if you're facing displacement or eviction. So want to make sure you know about this. You might want to attend this, but also if you know of people or buildings where there's people being evicted, or you feel that there's a risk, feel free to reach out and we'll put that building on our list to do the door knocking. Any comments, questions, announcements from anybody else tonight? Commissioner Oliver, anything? Okay. Well, no need to keep people beyond the agenda. It's good to get things done early. We don't need to be in meetings beyond the time, right? So we appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. We'll be staying in touch, and please do look out for that survey coming to you very soon, probably tomorrow. Click it, do it so we feel good. Okay, appreciate you all. Feel free to unmute and say goodbye.
Appreciate it. Good to see you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone.